Promise. I was looking for ways to clear up space because I have a few things to say, and yet 6 minutes is not much time, of course. I am in not mine actually, this time it's my dad's domicile. Although, can't really call it your home when it's group housing. That's where I live. Kind of can get depressing, but kind of can be the most safe thing ever for my future as well. I value the second a lot more than the first, I can't deny that. In fact, well, you think about what would make a group home depressing. The fact that there's old people sleeping in the room next door. Oh, big deal, right? That can happen in apartments. So it really makes it depressing after all. The fact that you're given free food. Well, that seems like a good thing to me, so. Just a thought that maybe we stigmatize things a bit too much, and that's why I was debating at the start of my video. Should I name my next one Colorful Future? Or should I name it trying to pick up on the word, a vapid future, a grim future? So I was deciding on that, because to me there's no real answer there, even though the proclamation with the video is that you are to make a solidified point, you are to drive a point home, actually. It cannot be about that. It can't just be a rambling kind of deal where you are just sitting down and speaking of things. But habitually, a great video has a grand point to be made out of it. Whether it be a review. A review would be a very good example. How you are to tell the truth about a product, and then, you discern its details, and then you come to your conclusion. And the whole point was that, hey, you've learned a little bit more about this particular subject. You've learned a bit more about. I have been going through the trippiest times in my life, that much is clear, even though it's starting to feel like, I shouldn't say that, but as of today, less is happening on the surface, but there is so much that's been happening. That simply made me wonder, what is life anyways, we've all been fooled by the universe, haven't we? If we were just some planet that just stood still and lived in its own space and didn't have much gravitas, didn't have however much space there is around it that there is, wasn't ever evolving, so on and so forth. If we just lived on a planet, if we just lived on a rock, then maybe we'd realize it. That our minds could have been formed from past existence, that our lives therefore could be dictated by the past and the future as well, that we could be living on an infinite row, which means that planets always appear. But we don't see that as possible. Most of us don't. Some of us see it as some kind of possibility, but most of us don't. We presume our lives to be the sole ones, and the thing is, I kind of grew tired of talking about this because, well, I don't have much facts to back me up. Facts are gathered from, in terms of the universe, facts are gathered from years, decades of studies. But a lot of things have been telling me, man, that maybe I'm a reincarnated being. In fact, it seems to me to be a bit more than likely. It seems to me it is the truth. But I can't prove that. However, reincarnation could be a brilliant thing, just like it could be a very dangerous thing. That's another path I could go down. Reincarnation could be the most interesting thing in the world, but what does it really mean? It means you came from somewhere else. You could argue a past life, and then you just reappeared in this one, and that would be the natural way to do it. But what's interesting is that humans, people, we kind of have a way to get our hands on everything, right? We kind of have a way to make everything consumer friendly, in other words. So that's a problem. Well, I'm so used to it at this point that I start thinking like, I'm so poisoned by the system. I start thinking, consumer friendly. Well, that's a solution, isn't it? You're being friendly to the consumer, but consumerizing life, on a deeper means than buying products for a baby. Even though in my mind that should be provided and so on and so forth. But see, it's another thing I'm noticing. Sorry to skip that. There isn't much else to say there though. But another thing I'm noticing is that you kind of just assume that people will just take care of themselves, right? If they don't take care of themselves, then, and lo and behold, your basic income, your whole, for me, it went from $730 a month to $150. So lo and behold, your basic income for you to enjoy and ponder upon how could it not be even less? Wow, the government is so generous and sweet, is it not? Except it's kind of whack. I mean, you think about it, a third to a fourth, about 1.1 out of 3.5 of people have such a debilitating condition that it's hard for them to work. It can depress them even further to work, and it can spiral them down a delusional hole for them to work. But then you get into the argument of, should people fend for themselves? And well, that's the view of a lot of corporate America, corporate Canada, corporate anywhere. And that's the view of a lot of the world order. Is that since I managed to and did fend for myself, therefore you should too. Why should I, with my money, provide for you? Well, then you turn around and you buy a product, which is kind of an illogical to some people, but the amount of background that goes into buying a product, the amount of money that's just put aside for people to reap. It can kind of get troubling and complicated at that point. It really can. Personally, what do I think? Well, if I were to simply grow $1 billion, I wouldn't. I'm pretty sure of that at this point. You never know, it's possible, the other billionaires, because that shit changes you. It's always changed people. But I'm pretty sure that if I were to grow $1 billion, no, I'd actually grow $100 million, which is still exuberantly a lot. I'm always boggled by the amount of money, right? Because I think to myself, 10 million is more than anyone could ever have if they're just working a job, if they're not extremely fortunate. 10 million is luxury, isn't it? But yet then a billionaire in the making opens himself up to the 100 million mark, and he says, well, it's extra security, it's extra protection, so why not? Even though, those are at least partially made up terms, but it feels excessively right because it means you're a bigger name. And then that gets into the point where money isn't about livelihood anymore. It's about luxury. There's a point where it just breaks. And it's not about livelihood, it's about luxury. Now, what I appreciate is that there's actually, there are billionaires out there that have kind of proven the whole security thing. Then that I've turned around and that I've said, now that I have a stable financial growth that gets me, fucking billions, now I'm going to give back. And I've actually done it. It's happened. I mean, I'd like to be naming more than, oh, I got another name, even though I don't know jack shit that this guy did. I remember I read once on a reputable website's list that he did some really good things. So shouts out to Warren Buffett. And my typical example is Bill Gates, and they're actually friends, which is the irony of it. You know, I don't have the best memory. That's actually my truth. So I tried reading articles. I read like 5-6 articles. I could not pull through. Even though I tried my hardest to remember the facts and the details. I could swear there's a little demon following me around that just erases my memory every time. Anyways, now I'm at the point where, well, I'm kind of thinking to myself, you know, I'm a guy who's struggled hard. I'm a guy who significantly struggled. What if 10 million ended up in my hand? What would I even do? I ask myself that every day. You know, there's no real reason to ask yourself that every day, but let's just say, for me there is. Even though it's probably meaningless, for me there is. If you didn't have that 0 point, I don't know, like there's people buying into the lottery, right? Because there's a means to an end with it for one person out there. For one person out there. Out of the millions who play. Well, instead of 1 in a million, I feel there's about 1 in 3 for me, so but I actually make something out of myself, even though I cannot tell you how, because you will think I'm a ridiculous buffoon. You will want to kick me on the side of the road. It is the truth. Anyways, maybe our future is saved, and maybe it is saved by Bill Gates. Yay, because he decided to go a bit further than helping the third world in some ways. He helped them in every way, and then suddenly they're all house, and they're all, I don't know, fucking clean. They're all clean. He's been helping with that, but they're all housed. I don't know, it's so beautiful. And they're no longer what's the word? Just, you know, a bullshit place. They're actually a beautiful place. Because I feel like a lot of the people even there would think that they're kind of a bullshit place. Even though they like their heritage and they like their community, they still think, we're kind of a bullshit place to live in because our government doesn't support us at all. And the thing is it's actually quite easy to just avoid that, you know. In fact, 80% of billionaires presumably would do exactly that. They'd ignore it. They'd fucking ignore it, man. Anyways. Life, eh? You know, it's interesting to me because just the fact that they're going out of their way, I mean, it's the only sensical thing. In a way, life is excessively sensical, even though we want to get all superstitious about it and everything, and I do every day, I swear. But in a way, life is the most understandable thing there is, which is interesting. Everything moves along at a pace that just makes sense. Oh no, I just read an article about war, and that's another thing. I'm surprised at how many influential people don't just straight up, as soon as a war starts, denounce it. Why don't they denounce it immediately? I mean, the value in war to me, like, is taking away the potency of words and the rationale of calm heads and so many more things to just deploy your own civilians, your own citizens on a battlefield because they signed the contract, they're getting the check, so let's hopefully not have them blow their legs off. You know, except then they do get their legs blown off, then they're forever handicapped. Then that's actually, I'm thinking about it like when you think about the fact that they then become veterans who are handicapped and paralyzed and so on. Well, how the fuck is war even profitable at all? Not surprising to me. So even from the mischievous evil grandpa perspective that just wants to ruin the world on his seat on the top of the hill, it still doesn't hold any sense. Then you're forgetting the fact that people are getting actually blown up. I mean, people are getting shot, people are getting killed. We've all grown kind of desensitized to that, haven't we? I think we have. So if I was a celebrity, the first thing I'd do is like, oh, a new war. Oh, fuck. I typed that. I'd be like, a new war. That's the worst thing I've read all year. Anyways, I'm gonna go. Thanks and see you. Take care, lovelies, and shit. I think at some point, life will make us out to no longer be bastards, and we're all gonna be beautiful, and we're all gonna want to help others and help the world. And we already are, but we're gonna want to do it way more, and we're gonna find out that when you don't put things through so much bureaucracy, which as the irony is that we're using the billionaire's power, and the billionaire's power usually grows disinterested if it doesn't help the billionaire, and then that starts some problems. But we're all gonna awaken to the troubled state we're in. That's my hope. You know, that's my goal. Because I have the capacity to be so fucking beautiful. And we kind of are. We're just not getting there. I'm not getting there, yo. For real. I'm not saying that as a like, oh, I'm an outsider who is cleansed. I'm simply watching the seance. I'm not saying it in that way. No, I'm saying it as I'm the dirtiest rascal on the block, and honestly, I deal with quite a few things. I might be kind of a bad person, you know, so, yeah. Anyways, yeah.